Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, August 1st, the first Friday of August 2025, as the summer rolls merrily along. Greetings from New York and our weekly global travel update. I'm back. Happy to be back with you, and we have so much to talk about before we even get to your questions, but go ahead and send them in as well. Let's start talking with what turned out to be a pretty angry hearing at the National Transportation Safety Board yesterday. Basically coming up with their conclusions on the probable cause of that terrible midair collision in January between the American Airlines Eagle plane and the Army helicopter over Reagan National Airport in D.C. What came out of that is not surprising for those of us who covered the story. We knew many of the conclusions that had already been reached in the course of the investigation, and the NTSB, let's face it, does a great job, a great comprehensive job of finding out the probable cause. But remember, they're not a regulatory agency. They can only make recommendations. And that's where the anger came in yesterday from the National Transportation Board, directed at guess who? The FAA. What a surprise. What do we discover? Over the years, over 15,000, shall I say that again? 15,000 close calls among aircraft over the airspace at Reagan National. I mean, unbelievable. Many of them, an overwhelming number of them, involving military aircraft that were flying arrogantly and without regard for other identifying devices in that region. What else came out of this? Turns out that the helicopter that that collided into the American Airlines plane was not transponding with an approved device that everybody else uses. So the controllers were at a disadvantage because while they may have seen the radar blip identifying that aircraft, they had no idea who they were talking to really, their altitude, their speed, or their direction. That's basically sophisticated transponding that every commercial aircraft uses that the military did not have on that night. And then, of course, airline traffic controlling staffing. There weren't enough controllers on duty that night, which is a continuing problem. Remember, I've said this before, of the 313 air traffic control centers in America, 311 are understaffed. That's not acceptable in the year 2025. In fact, it wasn't acceptable 25 years ago either, but they're still doing it. Ridiculous. So while we talk about that, the other investigations continue. And what did we learn this week? Some really sad news about the crash of that Korean Air, Jeju Air, not Korean Air, the Korean company is called Jeju Air back in December 29th of last year. You may remember that haunting video of the plane landing without a landing gear down, sliding along the runway and then into a barrier, exploding, killing everybody. And the possibility of what could go wrong, well, were they hit by birds? Did the pilots panic? Were there other mechanical issues on board that plane? We now learn that the plane did get hit by birds, one of its engines. And then came the really haunting deduction that one of the pilots mistakenly shut down the wrong engine. And as a result, there was no power. Landing gear never came down. He landed way too fast and then into a design flaw, that barrier at the end of the runway. And we now know why there was a fatal crash. But it brings back to me another story that happened back in 1989, another 737, this one belonging to British Midlands in Europe, in England, where basically they had a compressor stall and an engine failure on the 737, and one of the pilots shut down the wrong engine, ended up in a crash. And then last but not least, the continuing investigation in the Air India 787 crash in India, where we now know conclusively, we don't know who or why. We have a pretty good idea who. We have no idea why yet. Shut down the fuel supply to both engines about a second after it took off. You can't do that accidentally. You can't do it unintentionally. It's a deliberate, willful act, and that's being investigated as we speak. And then I'm reminded that just about 7 days ago was the anniversary, the 25th anniversary, make me feel old, of Air France Flight 4590. That was the tragic case of the Concorde that took off on July 25th, 2000. And we all saw what happened when it caught fire and crashed into a hotel outside of Charles de Gaulle, killing all on board and a number of people on the ground. I investigated that story. We did it as a 1-hour Dateline special at NBC, and we were able to prove conclusively, we overturned a verdict in that case as to what really happened on that flight, not what you think. And that, I hope, is still available in the archives. It was a Dateline black box mystery hosted by yours truly, 1-hour special on what really happened on that Concorde flight. Now, all of these, as a whole, amount to something else. Not what happened or why it happened or what lessons were learned, but most importantly, what lessons have been applied. And that goes full circle to what was the reason for the anger yesterday at the NTSB hearing in Washington, when the chairman of the board basically said to the FAA, in more or less these words, "We're sick and tired of you guys not doing what you're supposed to do. Fix it." Because it's not new. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's move on to some other stuff. You want some fun news? Okay, this video actually happened, but let me set it up. It was a plane that was delayed on Breeze Airways. That's David Nealman's airline. And of course, what happens when you're delayed? All the passengers sitting in their seats doing nothing but getting angry and frustrated. So the pilot comes out of the cockpit and he's carrying something, and look what happens.
Here's a little song I wrote, just in case the airplane broke. Don't worry, be happy. Every airplane has its troubles, but we'll fix it on the double, so don't worry, be happy. Oh, you are on a short delay, the mechanic's on his way, so we won't be here all day. And soon this airplane's gonna fly where you'll be flying high, enjoying our Wi-Fi. I know we're running a little late, but soon we'll be pushing off the gate, so don't worry, be happy. 'Cause your satisfaction means a lot to us. Try not make a fuss, we're fixing this Airbus. And give us just one more chance for you to be amazed. So you tell your friends for days to go fly Breeze Airways.
Now, what's really funny about that and really lovely is that he entertained the passengers. But wait a second. He also wrote the song, obviously, before this happened, in preparation for it. I hope it doesn't happen again. But I love the idea that he did it. So did the passengers. I just wanted to share that with you. A little piece of fun news today. Now, let's move on. And that is another piece of fun news. And you know what? It makes all the common sense in the world. I hope this is a role model for other people to follow when they have the opportunity. If you happen to be in Minneapolis and you happen to be staying at the Intercontinental Hotel at the airport, when you go downstairs to check out, you walk about 40 feet to the side of the check-in desk, and there's a door. And you open that door, and it has its own TSA security checkpoint. That's it. You go right, literally, you walk from the lobby through a door, through the checkpoint, and you're in the terminal. How brilliant is that? Think about how many airports have hotels at the airport where they can make use of this. And it takes a lot of the stress off the other checkpoints. Now, of course, if you're a smart traveler and you happen to live in Minneapolis, why would you go to the airport? Just go to the hotel and walk by the front desk and check in there. I love the idea, and hats off to the TSA for doing it. Hats off to the hotel for suggesting it. And let's see the other hotels like in Detroit and Tampa and Miami that are actually inside the terminals can come up with a similar approach. I love that idea, and it worked. Also, this is the time of year, happens twice a year, that The Economist magazine publishes something I eagerly await every year because it's a great metric for how you can budget your travel. You know, so many of us think that the cost of the travel is the airfare and the hotel room, but we don't take into account an adequate and accurate figuring out of what? The cost of basic goods and services once we get there. Everything from the cost of a tube of toothpaste to a taxi ride to a dinner to retail shopping based on the power of the US dollar or the weakness of the US dollar. So what does The Economist do every year? It publishes its Big Mac Index using the cost of a Big Mac all around the world to give you that metric that gives you the indicator of where's the most expensive place to travel based on the value of the dollar. So let's start with a baseline. The average cost of a Big Mac in the United States, about $6. But in India, $3. In Cairo, $2.60. On the other end, the average cost of a Big Mac in Europe is $7. But get ready, in countries like Switzerland and Sweden, $9. Now, there are many other countries on this list. I'm just giving you some examples. And I've always found it so helpful in helping me budget the real cost of my trip. And by the way, I'm not telling you have to buy or ever eat a Big Mac, but it is a good metric, as The Economist proves twice a year, to figure out what your trip is really going to cost. So thank you again to them for doing that. Now, let's say hello to some folks here. Jim and Harriet always numero uno from Richmond, Virginia. Linda's saying hi from Naples. You're very near to where I grew up in Sayville. Yeah, Sayville's a little bit east of me. Used to spend summers at Robert Moses, the state park, and my dad used to clam near the bridge. Well, interesting story about Robert Moses and a place called Fire Island, which is where I really live in the summers. Robert Moses, the great developer in New York, the master builder, had this bizarre idea that he wanted to build a bridge to Fire Island and then a highway that would go all 32 miles of Fire Island, essentially destroying the island. Everybody fought it, and it was the one thing Robert Moses never got done. He couldn't do it, but he did build the bridge. And now you can drive, and that bridge has been around for a long time. You can drive over that bridge to Fire Island, and that's as far as you can go. You have to park the car. If you want to go anywhere else on the island, you better have a boat or you better walk the beach. But in any case, speaking of clamming near the bridge, I still clam. And in the Great South Bay, something I've been doing since I'm a little kid. And the beautiful thing about Fire Island, for those of you who are lucky enough to go, it allows you to reclaim your innocence, your youth, And I do it every time. So, Linda, I know too well about what you speak. All right. Tim saying hi from Atlanta. We've got Paul who's saying hi from Ashland, Virginia. Sid saying hello from Thailand. Sawadee ka. Colleen, by the way, is saying hi from the jungles of Costa Rica. Camilla's in Tucson, as she always is. Carol Rosenthal, not too far from me, from East Patchogue, Long Island. Sandy saying hi from Charlotte. Joyce saying, do Disney cruises have enough things to do for adults, even if you're not bringing any kids? And the answer is they do. That's the joy of it. Now, when Disney first started, I was really worried about it because, well, I had this fear of being haunted everywhere on the ship by it's a small world, but it didn't happen. The one thing that drove me a little nuts is that the ship's horn is different than any other horn on any other ship. And the captain kept on letting kids push the button. And what was the horn? Bum, 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 bum. Oh, God, stop. They've tempered that now. And the food on the Disney ships is excellent, right? They've really improved it. And while they're not floating childcare centers, they do give the parents a lot to do and not necessarily always having to be with their kids. So, yeah, they're doing a lot. Michelle says, hello from Philadelphia. Super Bowl champions. Yeah, fly, Eagles, fly. I got it. Robin saying hi from Williamsburg. Gina saying hi from San Diego. Hello from the Kigezi region of southwestern Uganda. All right, we got everybody watching today. I appreciate that. A couple more notes that I want to share with you. And this gets down to something that's been bothering me for a while, and it should bother you, and I hope it bothers a whole lot more people. Delta Airlines, one of a number of airlines now, experimenting with artificial intelligence to determine what they think you are going to be willing to pay for your ticket. Now, let's go back to the original days of the law of supply and demand, right? If a flight was popular and the seats started filling up, they would price it accordingly based on whether you booked the ticket the night before or 3 years before. I get that. And that's a system that's still in place. That's not what we're talking about here because it's not based on demand at all. It's based on what they know about you or what they think they know about you. So, for example, if I go online to make a reservation on Delta, well, they have my name, they have my date of birth, they have my frequent flyer number, and they have all the information about my travel history, my travel patterns, my purchasing patterns, the time of year I go, who I fly with, sometimes by scouring other data, why I'm flying, how important every flight is to me or not important. Now, under AI, they're working that now to determine what my pain point is, right? How high can they price that ticket just for me that I'm still willing, as painful as it might be, to pay? So what other information are they getting? Am I flying on business? Am I flying as a solo traveler in the middle of the week? Maybe that's business. Am I traveling with a significant other on the same flight that I did last year, which means I need to go? They even have the ability through AI to scour so many other databases to find out why I'm flying in many cases. Do I have to go to a funeral? Ticket price just went higher, right? So what does this represent? Already a number of U.S. senators are asking the CEO of Delta to explain because they think it raises serious data privacy concerns. By the way, I agree. It certainly raises transparency concerns, and it's discriminatory by definition. So it's still in its infant stages, but the airlines are already reporting, the ones that are using it, a 20% increase in revenue where they're using it. How does that benefit us? That's a rhetorical question. It doesn't. So for the moment, I don't think I'm going to sign on to Delta on the web. I'm going to go through a third-party website, sign on as a guest, or do a VPN, or go incognito, and only use my frequent flyer number after I like the price and after the ticket's issued. It's a little scary right now. And so get ready. This is going to end up in the courts. You know it, and I know it. The problem is it should be rulemaking by the US DOT, but under the current administration, the US DOT is not inclined to make a lot of rules at all, right? The entire Trump administration is about deregulating everything, removing regulations. All the passenger rights, the rules, the new ones that were put into effect in the last 2 years by the previous DOT are now in jeopardy. Airlines are lobbying hard to get them removed, and the Trump administration may be a willing listener based on their approach to regulation. So be aware of that. It's not fun at all. All right, let's go to, I know what I wanted to talk to you about. I got some questions for you. We want to go that were sent in earlier this week, so let's get to them now. Lena says, I've seen people bringing pets on planes. What's the process for flying with a dog in cabin? Well, most airlines have a rule that if you want to fly with your pet, meaning your dog or your cat, it has to have a reservation, meaning talk about in the cabin. It has to be small enough to fit into a container that fits under your seat, which limits the number of pets when you think about it. And they limit the number of pets that can be in any one cabin on any one flight. And last but not least, the fare for that pet, in some cases, can be more expensive than what you paid. Now, we're not talking about the scam with emotional support animals, and we're certainly not talking about service animals. We're talking about your pet. So you have to check with the airline directly, make sure you get the dimensions properly, make sure you have a vet certificate that the dog or cat has been medically approved. And then if the dog is too big to fit under the seat in front of you, then it has to fly in a pressurized compartment in the plane's cargo area. And there are rules for that as well. A rule for an approved kennel, as a matter of fact. And what many passengers forget, and they don't think about it, is in that kennel, look, we tell this to ourselves all the time, right? If you're going to fly, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. But what about your dog or cat? How are they going to do that? Well, the kennels that they're giving you that are approved have a little bowl in there that you can put water in before you give that kennel to the airline personnel to board on the plane. What makes you think that water is going to stay in that bowl? You see how they handle bags? So the smart passengers will get to the airport with the kennel, with their pet, and with a bag of ice. And right before they put the dog or cat in the kennel to give to the guys, they put the ice in the bowl. And as the ice melts, they have something to hydrate with. Just a thought I would share with you. All right, here's a message from Raj. I'm flying long haul for the first time. Any tips for surviving a 15-hour flight? Other than binge watching Netflix, by the way, it works, or any of the other streamers. Yeah, let's start with hydration again. You don't eat airline food because you're hungry. You eat it because you're bored. And on a 15-hour flight, you will be bored. I don't care how many of your favorite shows you're watching. So this is BYO time, right? Airline food being the oxymoron that it is. It's a BYO situation where you bring your what? Favorite snacks that are healthy, fruit, veggies, right? Things that are not going to get messy, nothing that's cooked and smells, right? And space it out for the flight. Number one, hydration I already mentioned. Number two, at least twice during the flight, I don't care when you do it, but do it twice, get up and walk around the cabin. You need to do that, all right? I always pick a window seat simply because I don't want people crawling over me, especially during a 15-hour flight. So do yourself a favor, go to the bathroom before you board. And when you do get up once to walk around, go to the bathroom then, and then snuggle up on that window seat. It's as simple as that. Now, there's one more thing, though, and that's what you do after you land. But first, let's talk about this. If you want to sleep on the plane, you sleep on the plane. If you want to work, you work. You want to watch all the movies, you watch all the movies. But what really is the key is what you do after you land. And after a 15-hour flight, you need to do what I do. It works for me. I hope it works for you. You got to stay up until midnight local time. That means no succumbing to the idea of a nap. If you do that, no one will see you, including you, for 3 days. No heavy lunch or heavy meals because your chin will end up on your stomach before you know it. And then you'll cycle. Once you stay up till midnight, you'll cycle and you'll be okay the next day. And do the exact same thing once you come back on the trip. Okay? And have a good flight. By the way, the new season we're hoping up is coming out of Lincoln Lawyer and The Diplomat and Tulsa King. So there's stuff to watch. All right. Amanda says, is Venice really cracking down on day trippers? Do I need to book something in advance? The answer is a qualified yes. What Venice tried to do last year in 2024 was charge a €5 fee if you couldn't prove that you had a hotel reservation in Venice. They were trying to crack down on day trippers that were just flooding the city. Did it make a difference? Absolutely not. People paid the €5 and stayed anyway. This year, they came out with a brilliant idea. Let's charge €10. Did it make a difference? No. People spent the €10 and came anyway. So it's not about booking a hotel. Now, they'll normally be crowded during the summer, but now you know the deal. Okay? Deshaun says, I'm planning a trip to Colombia. What cities are best for first timers? Well, look, I love Cartagena. I love Medellin, right? For those people who watch Narcos, speaking of binge watching, couldn't get enough of that show. You know what? It's worth it. They cleaned up their act in Medellin. It's an arts capital now, a gastronomic capital. I mean, they've done a great job. Well worth it. And for those of you who are fans of Narcos, yes, you can still go visit all the Escobar palaces. They tore one down, but everything else is there. The cool thing about it, if you were a Narcos nut like I was, they filmed that show exactly where it happened. So you can see where he died. You can see where he lived. You can see everything. In fact, to give you an idea of how crazy it is, people forget he died in like 1993. People are still putting flowers on his grave. He's still a hero. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, but well worth the visit, okay? And then if you have time, go northwest from Bogota to a beautiful island called Santa Marta. You will love it. Okay, here's one from Emily. I just got a new passport with my married name, but my ticket has my maiden name. What should I do? Well, when is your flight? You need to go with 2 forms of ID. You may have to do this in person at the airline, meaning at the airport, but not on the day you're flying. You may want to do it on the phone first, if they'll accept it. If not, how many days do you book this flight in advance? Has the fare gone down? Hopefully the fare hasn't gone up. You might want to cancel that flight and rebook it immediately with your correct name as it appears on your government-issued ID, as in this case, your passport. Okay. Victor says, I want to visit Japan, but avoid Tokyo crowds. Any smaller cities worth checking out? Lots of them. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I love taking the bullet train down to Kobe. A lot of people don't go to Kobe. I then will take a ferry on the inland sea, stopping in Nagasaki, and then emerging out to the Yellow Sea. Of course, my favorite city in Japan remains Kyoto. I mean, it's beautiful. And it's got a spirituality to it and a quietness to it that Tokyo doesn't have. It's a great juxtaposition. Love Tokyo as well. I mean, if you want energy, it's Tokyo. If you want to relax, it's Kyoto. Okay. Malik says, what's the etiquette for tipping on cruises? Is it already included or expected separately? Well, it's different on every cruise ship. I get annoyed. I really do get annoyed on the cruise ships that put envelopes in your cabin and tell you what you have to tip. What is wrong with that? How about everything? Right? On the other hand, there are cruise lines like Silver Sea and others that have a no tipping policy. It's built into your cruise fare, but at the end of the day, the service that you're getting on these ships is so over the top and so genuine, you want to tip anyway, and I always do. And I want to do it that way because it's more genuine. It's heartfelt. It's a real thank you as opposed to robotic, put the money in the envelope because everybody has to do it. So again, it varies by cruise ship. Ask what the policy is, okay? But I'm all in favor of genuine, not robotic. Sophia says, I've got a red-eye landing in London at 6 a.m. Can I check into my hotel early, or do I need to book the night before? Here's the deal. If you want to check into your hotel early, they may make you book the night before, and you're paying for a room. Here's what I do. I know that even if I check in at 6 a.m., the room's not going to be ready. So they have a health club. They have a spa. I don't have to go for treatments, but I'll say, listen, while I'm waiting, can I use the spa? Using the spa means the sauna, the jacuzzi, the steam room. Hey, much better way to wait for 3 or 4 hours, and you can take a little nap if you want, and then you check in. All right, time to go to the photo of the week, and perfectly timed. Let's say hello to Richard Yellen, who took this shot. He writes, just arrived on the first commercial U.S. airplane, that would be United, to fly from the United States to Greenland, the capital city of Nuuk, N-U-U-K. We've actually broadcast our radio show from there a number of times. It's phenomenal. The plane was greeted by water cannons, hundreds of onlookers and camera crews. Nuuk is charming. It is. For a chance at being next week's photo contest winner, if you think it's worthy of Richard's photo, you know what to do. It's photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree with you that yours is great, it goes right up there next to Richard's. All right, a little housekeeping note. Let me scroll down for a minute because other people have logged in I want to say hi to. Hold on a second. Okay. Laura says, is it a good idea to get global entry if traveling to South Africa? Well, you're talking about global entry to return from South Africa. Yes, global entry is the best thing to happen since sliced bread is a government program. I love it. I live by it. Get it now. It's good for a while. And even if you only fly once a year, how much is your time worth to you? You don't want to fly 11 hours and spend 2 hours in line going through customs and immigration. That's what global entry does for you. You go to the kiosk, it takes a picture, it's facial recognition, boom, you're done. Right? Way to go. Robin says, did you take some time off last week or was it really a working vacation? I'm going to give you the answer. It was both. And I did take some time off. I was actually in Greece and in Nice, but also did some work there, but it was brilliant. I needed it, and now I'm back. And I miss it. Okay. Sid says Las Vegas tourism is down in June 11.3%. Will the prices come down as a result? Yes, they will. And in fact, some of the restrictions are coming down. One hotel, to give you an idea of how Las Vegas is getting hurt by this, one big hotel in Las Vegas, Resorts World, has announced that for the summer of 2025, no resort fees. This is a hotel that used to make them mandatory. That'll give you an idea of some of the discounts that weren't available 2 months ago that are available now. Okay. Joseph, and Patrick Cooney says, greetings from Sin City. He's there now probably taking advantage of the discounts. Scott saying, hello from Chicago. Gary saying, neat idea about the ice, but even better to freeze one of those bottles that can drip upside down into the bowl. I agree. Good idea, Gary. Charlie Wynnham's back on from Baton Rouge, home of Frost Top Root Beer, and of course, Zapp's potato chips, among others. Okay, here we go. Tim is saying, what happens if you're allergic to pets and someone else brings one? Make sure when you board the plane that you tell the flight attendants you have an allergy. They will reseat that passenger, but do it the minute you get on the plane or even to the gate agent, okay? And Tim says the Passenger Bill of Rights did not go into effect yet. Passenger Bill of Rights was never formulated. That's what the DOT was promising us in the last administration, a completely delineated, detailed airline passenger Bill of Rights. They never got that far. They came up to like a little bit of a dashboard of what some airlines would do and not, but it wasn't an effective passenger Bill of Rights as in rulemaking. So don't expect one from this DOT. We may be waiting for quite some time. Here's an interesting suggestion from Gary, going back to the AI thing we just talked about. To beat the AI bot, get your price through Google Flights or similar. They won't know who you are, and you may get better pricing as they know you're considering other options. For the moment, I like that hack. I hope it stands. Okay. Our good friend Dan Beckman, he's in Honolulu, saying, mahalo for the terrific updates. You got it, Danny. I'll see you soon. Kelly says, I'm flying to Vegas on September 1. Should I buy my tickets now or wait another 2 weeks? Well, here's the question. Are you going there for Labor Day weekend? If that's the case, buy them now, okay? Because the airfare may go up for that. Tim says, what about Delta charging more for a single ticket? They got caught doing it a couple of weeks ago. They said they're not doing it now. We're talking about for solo travelers. United may still be doing it. The problem is their algorithms detect that if you're a solo traveler flying in the middle of the week, you're a business traveler, and they may charge you more. It's wrong. Okay, let's keep going down here. Hold on a second. Katrina's saying hi from Alabama. Sorry, Katrina. And Gary says, as a travel writer, all your vacations are working. You got a point there. Jack's saying hi. And, okay. This is from, I won't mention the name. I was once suffering from cancer, and I was told by my doctor that there's no possible cure, and I knew I had limited time on the planet due to the way the doctor talked to me. I saw a comment, a lot of testimonials, and how he blah, 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 blah. Oh, good. Well, guess what? Apparently he's traveling again. Congratulations. We like stories like that. Yeah, never let anything get in the way of travel. That's what I always say, and you didn't, and I appreciate that. One other housekeeping note, our show, Eye on Travel on CBS, the radio show, airing tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't check your local listings, we also stream it live at about 10:05 Eastern. Just go to petergreenberg.com on our website, and you will see that icon. Hit it. You'll hear the show. It's coming from an iconic location, one that I make a point of visiting every single year, and we try to broadcast from there every single year because it's so much fun. We're in Cleveland tomorrow at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well worth the visit, well worth the show. I hope you get a chance to listen. Of course, we'll be answering more questions as well. Hopefully, the person who will not be performing there will be the Breeze pilot who sang the song to the delayed passengers, but who knows? Anything's possible. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off a little early today. Have a great rest of this week. See you on the radio tomorrow. Anthony, thanks for handling this in Los Angeles today. And we'll see you for Global Travel Update next week from another location somewhere around the world. Bye, guys.
Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.